Hi, everybody. Today we're wrapping up our textbook. This is chapter 15, Global Media in the Digital Age. So we have successfully read all the chapters, and just on a side note, there will be a little bit of information on chapters 12 and 13 for people who are not majoring in media studies. So we've covered a lot of ground during the semester that we've learned. Broadcast media, mass media, about convergence, defined and discussed the importance of media literacy, talked about print, magazines, newspaper, audio, video. We explored the impact of interactive media. We examined the impact of social media. We defined public relations, then advertising, and looked how advertising practices are affected by digital technologies and new media. Then we defined media ethics, explored the relationship between media and politics, just recently in chapter 14. And now we're going to talk about the ways we're globally connected through global media, equally and unequally. So, digital technologies are now spread throughout the world, and it doesn't matter where you live, you can connect with your loved ones, you can connect with friends all over the globe. But not all people in all places have access that is equal, equitable, and pretty much affordable. The freedom to use and enjoy the media in the same way. In some countries, there are restrictions on media use, and the desire to use digital technologies the same way. I still have friends who do not use smartphones because they think those are evil. And the different forms of government lead to different ideas about the role of media in society, and hence, from there, we have different kinds of regulations, restrictions, laws, and policies. And again, about those in chapter 12, we will get back to that in a brief form soon. Okay, so we learn at school about media because we live in a time where media really plays a very important role in our lives, and technologies are embraced in many aspects of our lives. So we have a system of government that teaches us to value personal expression through media. It is called a democracy. And here's a chart of world press freedom. There is an organization to protect journalists, and there are multiple organizations dedicated to the same goal, protecting freedom of speech. Different governments have different kinds of approaches to media. Authoritarian media, authoritarian theory, means that media industries and media organizations belong to the government, and content will be regulated by that same government. Ideas and practices that conflict with official, religious, or government messages are blocked or censored out. People who violate those guidelines are punished, often very severely. And I don't want to name any countries because in a matter of a month or two, things may change in different societies. But having lived in the Soviet Union, I can say that the authoritarian media model was really prevalent, dominant during the era of the Soviet rule. And later it changed in the 1980s into a free market model. So it is the normative theory of media. Um, so countries, in different countries, media operate in different ways. In Great Britain, for example, in England, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company, it does represent the government. It belongs to the government. It is a broadcasting company that charges fees from users, but it also happens to have the best traditions of objectivity, broad coverage, bringing diverse voices because of their efforts, the efforts of journalists and media editors, to create responsible, good content. So, there is another theory, social responsibility theory. It is when media industries are free from most government restraints and should provide reliable and important information to the public by exercising responsibility. Censorship is usually limited to criminal activities, child pornography, and such things, violence. People are encouraged to question materials and practices so you can actually raise issue with them. So every kind of global media system is a reflection of its local values. Media creates and reflects our culture. It's not only a driving force for the culture, but it also follows cultural traditions. What happens when the internet imports other cultures into our own? This is what happens. We see Russian cartoons where characters speak fluent English and use colloquial or slang terms rather freely because of their interactions online. Do those cultures with media dominance overly influence other places and their users? The answer should be yes, because in many corners of the world, viewers know who Bart Simpson is. And that actually is, in media theory, it's referred to the McDonaldization of media. So it's globalization, McDonaldization, bringing the cheapest, the lowest denominator, the most popular things that do not represent high value, but are easy to export because the humor or the imagery is easy to translate. How do we allow different places the time and space to find their own mediated voices while also finding a way to appreciate and share different voices on a global scale? That's a very difficult question, and I think the answer might be in the economies of those places. If they do have strong economies to support their own production of content, then this content would stand against the globalized McDonaldization of culture. And we see in places like Wales or Ireland, or even Scotland, there would be cultural institutions related to media industries where, for example, Welsh language television would be as dominant, as strong as English language programming, and not just competing but complementing each other. So, with the support of the dominant media industry, local entities, local cultures can also flourish if they don't contradict or they don't engage in a conflict with the dominant culture. So, what are the digital divides? As we know, we spoke about people who do not have access to free internet, for example. It's the gap between regions and demographics that have access to modern digital communication technology and those who don't have such access. Different countries have different forms of access, different levels of access. We would say the different pricing. Different parts of different countries have different access, and even in Oneonta, I keep bringing up this example, and I hope that one day when you watch this lecture, it will be obsolete. But there are rural areas, even around Oneonta, on Route 205, where internet does not reach and people do not use cell phones. I have at least two families of friends who do not use smartphones because they live in that area. So, in the United States as well as other countries, native reservations, rural areas, they lag behind big urban areas, and small towns don't offer the same luxuries and high levels of access in terms of speed and availability as the larger urban areas. So, right now, I think in Mount Vision, in those areas of Oneonta, there is more internet access, but again, these people living there are still a little behind Oneonta residents in general. So here is a chart on world internet users and the rates of penetration of technology into those areas. Um, and you see where overgrowing populations, tend to create jams in communication technologies as well. So, our final thought of the day and of this chapter would be that our access to media for personal, professional, educational reasons has been amazing, and it has been soaring on an exponential rate, at an exponential rate. Access to media creates powerful opportunities and modes of human communication, quick communication, fast, far-reaching, broad, globalized. Mediated communication affects our lives and our culture on many levels every single day. And the more we understand that influence, the better we will be at creating, evaluating, and distributing mediated messages. So, as one final piece of advice, we want to be informed, we want to be ethical, and we want to be kind. We want to be decent in our communication and try to be as diverse as possible in order to avoid finding ourselves in an echo chamber. Thank you for listening.